Welcome back, everyone, to the Tony Casillas Show. I'm your host, Tony Casillas, and thank you for joining us again. To your first time, welcome to my show. First of all, I want to thank everyone. If you have watched our 8 episode, I believe, I cannot believe it's been that many shows. Thanks again. I'm so grateful for that. I also want to remind everyone, this is December, so we know what December means. It means that Christmas is fastly approaching, and it's a little different this year because of COVID-19 and everything we've had to deal with, and it just doesn't seem like we feel like being into the giving and happy spirit. But one thing that my wife really does do, and I want to recommend that you do this also, find a way to be able to do it, is that she asks me every year to move all the boxes out of the attic, and we have a lot of boxes that I have to move, and so I have to go up and move all the boxes downstairs and bring them down. And sometimes I may complain about it. I'm not going to lie about that because we have a lot of, we're very blessed and have a lot of decorations because Christmas around our house is important. I mean, it's been something that we've really celebrated and just love to get in the spirit. Where I'm going with this is that once it's all said and done, it becomes a little magic, Christmas magic, almost like a little kid, because everything is kind of transcended to something different. Unlike the whole year, our house looks totally different, and this makes you happy. And I think this year, this is the time when we need some happiness. So I'm going to encourage you to get into that spirit. If it takes a little bit more effort to do it, let's try to put on a happy face, and let's really try to celebrate that. Because as we know, as much as we want 2020 to pass by, we still got to get through these days, and hopefully 2021 will be much better for all of us. So make sure you do that, because this is the year to try to be happy. And as I mentioned, get into that spirit, if you will. I am real excited about this guest. Oh, first of all, I want to tell you to make sure that if you watch our show on Facebook Live, or if you subscribe to my show, the Tony Casillas Show on YouTube, make sure you share our show, because that's how we grow organically. That's how we get people to watch our show, and we're counting on you. Hell, sometimes I don't even know what organically means. I think Kevin, our great producer, said it's natural and just earthy or whatever.
That sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds right. Thank you, brother. And by the way, thanks, Kevin, for doing such a great job every week, man. The dude really rocks it and tries to put up with me and make me look a little bit better. And God knows I need the help, so thank you. And also our executive producer, Kim Francis, who is really active on during our show. Thank you, Kim, for what you do. And again, without those two guys or those people, then this show wouldn't exist. Okay. I was kind of giddy because I was trying to get to our guest, and I'm really excited about this guy because I had a chance to meet him at a football game here, and I almost felt like an ice-struck fan. And when I say ice-struck, that's the guy's nickname instead of starstruck. It's kind of my dad's joke reference, but you'll get the gist of it. And when I saw him, I looked at him, I'm like, dude, that's Chuck Iceman Liddell. I said, he looks the same. He's got the mohawk, and that's one badass. And I got to ask him to come on my show. And you know, I was a little bit more reserved because when you meet someone like that, I followed his career, and you know, he's kind of an intimidating looking person. You just don't know what kind of reception. So I met him, and lo and behold, we exchanged contact information, and I've been relentless and persevered as far as trying to get him on my show, and we got him today, and I'm so excited about having him because he is truly a legend. I think he is more responsible for MMA and UFC fighting where it is today because he really made it mainstream, because I was more of a boxing fan, and I really didn't know about the UFC and MMA, and I didn't know about the sport, but he transcended with his whole persona, which to me is just something that they have to be thankful for to that organization. So I'm so excited of having Chuck Iceman Liddell on my show this week. As mentioned, I said that we're going to have a tremendous guest this week, and in my eyes, legendary, a guy that revolutionized the sport of UFC and MMA, made it mainstream where it is today, made me a fan. So let's bring him in, the great Chuck Iceman Liddell. First of all, Chuck, and thanks a lot. I know I kind of I wasn't trying to stalk you or persevere too much to get you on my show, but I told people when I met you, I was just eye struck when I saw you, man.
I know. I wanted to do your show, so I tell all my friends, hey, if I tell you I'll do something, you just got to stay on me because I do get hit in the head for a living. So, I got to give me some excuse for forgetting to get back to people.
Well, I my sport, playing professional football, when they said that, it was kind of good and bad considering what the long-term effects would be. But I definitely can relate to that, brother. So real quick, I'm going to set this up because when I did meet you, you were in town and you're at the A#1 air with in the suite with them and tremendous people, James and Sherry. But I saw you and I thought, as soon as I saw you, I'm like, you get this vivid look when you haven't changed much. I know you're still in great shape and only 2 years out of your last fight, but I saw you. I'm like, dude, I got to go talk to him. And I mean, you look great. I mean, you haven't changed too much. I know that people say that, but I mean, you look the same. And I just, again, I just had to ask you, come on the show because you are such a guy that just, again, revolutionized the sport. When people say that about you, what is your first thought?
I'm always kind of humble. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I had a good time doing it. I think I did work on a lot of different things, and we, when I came into the sport, we were really just trying to learn how to mix everything together. It just kind of really was really early on, and trying to figure out. Guys were coming in with either wrestling background, boxing background or some kind of striking background or a wrestling background. So, or jiu-jitsu background. Sorry. So, but one of those three, and they'd have one like wrestling and they'd have to learn jiu-jitsu and striking. And then they'd have striking and have to learn wrestling and jiu-jitsu. And, and I happen to be a kickboxer that wrestled. So I had two and I had to learn one. So I had a little advantage in the beginning with that. But it was a good time to be in the sport. Trying to figure out how to train it. How do we spar? How do we, now you got guys that got got strength coaches. They got dietitians. You got the full gamut of coaching. And guys, got great coaches out there that know what they're doing. And the guys are starting as kids with MMA, not one sport or the other.
Well, you mentioned your background in wrestling. You're from California, grew up in California. Went to Cal Poly as a wrestler there. I mean, how did it all start? I mean, real quick, as I mentioned, you're from a California guy and ended up going to a California school, but how did it all start with your whole career?
Well, I kind of just fell into it, really. I mean, the whole story is kind of funny. One of the guys I wrestled with, Alfie Alcaraz, had started learning some karate from me because I black belt karate when I was in college. To wrestle together in college. I was 18. I was 19. He was 18, I think. And then when he left school, he went back to Vegas and started kickboxing. Became a world champ. He fought in the UFC back in the day too. But I went to go watch his fight. I'm sitting there going to the weigh-ins the day before, and Nick One Kicker. Now I didn't know him at the time. That was the promoter. He was promoting the show. He comes over. Hey, Chuck. Alfie says you're a pretty tough guy. You want to fight tomorrow night? I'm like, sure, awesome, yeah. All right, I guess I'll do it. And so I go weigh in, and then the commission guy goes, hey, so how many fights do you have? I'm all, I never had a fight. It's my first one. And I looked at Nick and went, what are you doing? Like, he was going to put me, I was going to be the main event. Like, his guy didn't show up for the main event, so he was going to throw me in. But they didn't let it happen. And Nick went to me. He's like, hey, why don't you go home and train, and I'll put you on the next card. And I'm like, because I was kind of bummed out. I wasn't going to fight for. So I went home and I just by chance had met John Hackman and became my coach. Still my coach today. But I met John the week before, and I had his card in my pocket, and it said World Champion Kickboxer on it. I'm like, hey, perfect. I'll go work out with this guy. So, yeah, and it gets, I don't know how much you know about it, but I wound up going up and training with John one day at his gym up there. He beat the piss out of me for about Um,
So when you say you beat the piss out of
19.
me,
He was just hitting me with everything, everywhere. I could land. I could my leg. I was blocking with my forehead, I think. But it was. I mean, I just kept coming and kept fighting, and at 19 minutes, when his buddy was there, I was like, "Hey, man, stop that! That's enough. That's enough." And they go, "Well, let's train, guys. Let's go. This is train." So I trained. It started raining, and I came up on a motorcycle. I went down to John's. It was at John's house, his gym. So went down. I'm gonna get on my bike, and he's like, "Hey, man, are you coming back tomorrow?" Yeah. And remember, this is the second time I met him.
right?
You come back tomorrow? Yeah. Here, take my truck keys. Threw me his truck keys, brand new truck. Push a motorcycle in the garage and take it. So I took that home, came back the next day and trained with him at his house. I probably 6-7 days a week I was at his house for the next, 7 years until we actually both opened gyms.
So you mentioned you had to kind of pay the tuition of being a fighter. What made you so captivated and made you feel like, hey, this is something I really want to continue? Because you mentioned it wasn't the first day, it wasn't the best of your life, but how did you just kind of perpetuate?
I was already a fighter. Like I love the competition of fighting, and the thing that John was able to do that to me. I hadn't had anybody. John, was the guy beating me up. John Hackman, my old trainer. But I hadn't had anyone do that to me in so long. I'm like, I wanted to learn more. So I got to figure out what he's doing to do that. Okay, so I want to be better.
Right.
So I just kept using it as an excuse to not have a real job for a while. And I always wanted to open a karate school anyway. So, but yeah, I fell in love with the sport when I started MMA, the first mixed fight, which was actually Nick's fault too. I think one kid asked me, "Hey, Alfie says you know how to wrestle." I said, "Yeah." Do you want to do a mixed fight? Sure, why not? Let's try it. But
so the rest, and then you look at your career now, which it started. I think I mentioned this when I first met you. I mean, I went to the University of Oklahoma, and my recruiting trip was Bedlam. It was Oklahoma State versus OU, and those two schools. I mean, it had so many great wrestlers. Andre Metzger, Schultz brother, Dave and Mark Schultz, and all these great wrestlers. And I always said those dudes are the strongest badasses I know. There's something they're kind of wired differently. But to me, there was 20,000 people watching this wrestling match. And these guys were the toughest SOBs I've ever met.
Wrestling, that's one of the things when people ask me who I like to coach the best. And I mean, if I had to have one thing, you give me an All-American wrestler. Because I know a guy, I know he's mentally tough. I know he knows how to cut weight. And I know he can wrestle. And I can teach. It's easier to teach him the rest, I think. But it's just having that mental toughness. You make it to that level, do that. You're mentally tough. And then you're a wrestler. You got that. You got those natural. Some things that take a long time to teach when you're trying to teach you how to fight.
Well, I mean, your career is amazing. 21-9 and lightweight, heavyweight champion, Hall of Famer. So when I watch all your videos, to me, and you mentioned wrestling, but you're a hell of a fighter. I mean, there's a lot of times you stood up and just a great punch.
I was one
that skill set.
Yeah, well, I would.
Was that through martial arts?
I started with martial arts, and then John really, when he took me in to train me, he really kind of let me. He helped me and added things to my game. He didn't try to change everything completely. He's a good coach at watching, picking out, okay, I can give him this to help him. I can give him that to help him. So, it's just working real hard and learning. I love martial arts when I was a kid. It was one of those things when, a lot of kids in our gym, like a lot of people that joined the gym, when they figured out that it was real work, because everyone goes, when I was a kid, you go in the karate thinking they're going to teach you some magic moves and you're going to be Bruce Lee. It's like, but, it wasn't like that. But a lot of guys, when they figure out it's not like that, they quit. When they figure out it's hard work and training, they quit. what I figured out was when I was a kid, I went out, I'm like, wait a minute, the harder I work, the better I get. So if I outwork him over there, I can get better than him, I can pass him. Oh, that's how it works. And so I really fell in love with martial arts at that point. You know, it was a way to push myself and get better and better, and how I can pass other people. I always wanted to be the best.
Yeah. So. I also said this: I'd never mess with a wrestler, and that's the best advice I'd give to anyone. Do not mess with a wrestler. They're badass people. So you mentioned the training, and I'm always just infatuated with the training of different sports, whether it's boxing, UFC, fighting, whatever it is, the regiment. And you described it the way you got started, and just got pummeled your first time you fought. But put it, kind of give us like a little, behind the curtain course of what it's like to train for one of your fights.
Well, that's going to be a long one. We usually actually, okay, but Monday morning I go out and go for a jog because after taking the weekend, half the weekend off, I don't like, and we spar first thing Monday afternoon usually. So I don't want that to be the first time I stretched out. So go run a jog on Monday. And I go two workouts Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I have like a active rest day on Wednesday usually, and we go hard on Saturday. So I have Sunday off. So I mean, we do a lot of similar stuff, similar wrestling conditioning. The thing is, you got to get in shape for striking and wrestling because there are two types of shape. You can't. I could be in shape to do 15 rounds boxing, and I start wrestling, and 3 minutes later I'm tired.
Yeah.
So it's a different conditioning. So, but it's mixing. Sparring together with sometimes we're doing, say like a Monday, we do striking at the afternoon class, and then at night, we'll go do a wrestling, and then finish up with my conditioning. So then do a Tuesday, same kind of, it's the same similar aspect, different, just change it. We change things up. We try to change it up, do different things each time.
So if you have your choice, obviously in your career. Would it be better? Would you prefer fighting a guy that wrestles or is a fighter or a combination? What do you prefer? I mean, you have to be ready for both of them because I know that's.
I mean, you prefer. I mean, anybody that makes it to the top level now, they can wrestle, they can do jiu-jitsu, they can strike. They have something usually that they prefer or their go-to. So. And I felt like the best thing I could offer really was being able to go back and forth between the two. I think I forgot about that a little bit late in my career because I like knocking people out. But when I was mixing it up is when I was the toughest. And it's one of those things. Makes a guy like John Jones so great because he fight well in all three rounds. He can do things in all wherever he needs the fight to be. So.
No, I forgot to mention this before we brought you on, is that you posted something, and this is kind of off topic, and I forgot to ask you this question and bring it up. It's last weekend. Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson, they had a comeback, if you will, exhibition boxing match. And I saw the Instagram you posted, and it was you and your family, and you had all these look like space suits on, and you're getting social distancing in California. And I thought that was pretty cool.
That was a lot of fun. We brought those out, and they sent us those, and we have, in case of emergency, we have our hazmat suits.
I thought it was great.
Did you like that? Did you like the kids? Kids was up close. They got fishbowl. That reminds you of those cartoons where they have a fishbowl on their head.
Great.
Like,
people, they need to follow you on Instagram because that was a hell of a post, and it's really, you got an interesting storyline there and the pictures you post. All right, back to your career. Your first match, I believe, was in 1998, right? And go back to that first match and what were your thoughts? And as you went in, and were you nervous, apprehensive, or just something that, hey, look, man, I'm ready for that?
Okay. two funny stories from that one were like, went to the fight. So we go through the weigh-ins, right? And I don't know if back then, if you knew, those weigh-ins were, they fly us in the same day we weighed in. So you land. I mean, I'd be cutting weight at the airport. I don't know. They put me in a layover. And then
wait a second. You said
I break a sweat, and the poor guy sitting next to me, so I'm dripping sweat all over him. And then I showed up to weigh in like right at the end, and I get there and I look down and it's a bathroom scale. No, not a digital bathroom scale. It was a freaking it was a one of those ones with a little dial on it.
Right.
Like a spinning dial. I'm like, are you serious? And they're like, hey, know your ass is 2 pounds over. Is that okay? I looked at him and went, on this scale? I'm like, I'm a wrestler. Like, I can get him on here. I'll show him how to lean. I'll get him on weight right now. I was like, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. But it was funny. It was funny. But yeah, those
so
guys,
obviously you made weight, right?
And then the other interesting one from that night was I'm walking out, and I'm walking my first time walking out. Now I'm thinking before I'm like, man, I meet the big time. I got the scale. And now I'm thinking, walking out, man, this is cool. I'm walking out on TV right now. I look up and misspelled my last name. I'm like, really? Really? Did they really do that? I'm like, oh, okay. Went back to, okay, I was walking out for the fight at that time, but I was like, really? Come on. I finally got here and then misspelled my name.
Yeah, well, they never had that problem again, brother. They got that name right after that one, I believe. So that's interesting. When it comes to cutting weight, and I know this my experience with wrestlers, and you having to do it in the UFC, what is some of the most bizarre cutting weight experiences you've ever had? I mean, have you ever been over 10 pounds in one day and had to cut weight, or 5 pounds?
Well, I cut an average for my fights. I got pretty good at being in the right place and disciplined, and so I'd be between 8 and 10 pounds over the morning when I woke up for weigh-ins. And actually, I don't think I like the new weigh-ins the way they do it in the morning, because they say they have more time to recover. Because I didn't keep the weight off that long anyway, so because I used to like to cut the weight the morning of, and then weigh in at 3 or 4, and then drink and eat and get back to my normal weight. So I'd only keep the weight off for a couple hours. And now they have the weigh-ins at like 9 o'clock in the morning, I think 8, 9, whatever. So now I usually I don't get up when I'm going to fight until about 10:30. So when I'm training camp, I'll be up to about 10:30. So because I'm fighting at 9 o'clock at night. So I like to be ready I don't want to be ready to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. I want to be ready to fight. So, but when I'm doing this with these guys, I make that weight, and then at 9 o'clock in the morning, I got to do it then. And then now I got to get up at 6 and cut weight. If I want to hold it off, I just have it off for a little bit. I get at 5 or 6. I haven't got up at 5 or 6 in 10 weeks.
Right.
Now you're going to screw up my timing.
Yeah.
I sleep the night before the big fight. You're screwing up my sleep schedule.
Yeah.
Which really screws me up. So I don't think I'd like that early one. But my worst weight cutting story was the fight got moved. And this was one of the early fights I was doing. The fight got moved.
Yeah. With
Peeves, and it was actually the first fight that Dana managed me for, in a way. They moved the fight like 3 weeks or something, but we had scheduled a team trip to Hawaii right after my fight, right? So the whole team's going to Hawaii with non-refundable tickets, and me, but we have a fight now in a week after I get back. So I was right on schedule. I need to lose 5 more pounds over the next week and a half, and to come in to cut my weight, right? So we went to Hawaii. Well, I like Spam Musubis and Locomocos. So not a good combination when you're trying to lose weight.
Right.
So instead of taking off 5 pounds, I put on 5 pounds. So when I showed up the day before in Fresno, I showed up and I was 19 and a half pounds over when I started cutting weight. And
19
it was
and
a
a half
day of
pounds?
weigh, and it was a day of weigh-in. I had to weigh in at noon,
So how
and they
much
made me
time
stand
literally
there.
did you
They
have
made
to
me
lose
stand there for an
19
hour because they said
pounds?
it was noon. What's that?
I said, how much time did you have to literally cut 19 pounds?
Well, I had it. I basically 24 hours.
Wow.
I mean, or no, a little more than that. I love like 30, 32 hours.
See, that's what people don't
So,
understand is that when you're fighting at a certain weight and you're overweight, especially, in UFC and as a wrestler, I mean, that is not healthy. I mean, you said you could, I guess, drink it back on after you.
boy, at 19 and a half, I was cramping when I was warming up for the fight. It was a day of weigh-in. I had to fight that night. So you
Wow.
really had to be careful how much you couldn't overhydrate because you want to. It was a mess. But I mean, I give the guy credit. He took the fight. I beat him in the only submission match I ever done. That was his kind of forte. And he wanted. I don't know why he wanted to fight me, but it ended good. It was a good knockout.
When you look at your career, Chuck, and the game is the sport has changed, but when you started, I mean, I remember watching it, and it was pretty brutal. And people, the different perception, but I just remember how relentless you were. It's some of your opponents, and obviously when you look at Tito Ortiz and then Rampage and some of your fights that were legendary. When you look back and you look at all the fights that you've had and you look at some of the great rivalry matches, if you will, which ones that you just automatically go to that maybe that guy was a tough SOB and this guy really looked forward to dominating or fighting? And which of those guys that really, I guess, put a profound memory on you?
Well, of course, Randy Couture. I mean, because he's such a tough guy and such a tough champion. And Vanderlei Silva, I always wanted that fight, and I just wish we could have had the 2 more rounds. I think both of us wish we had the next 2 rounds after that fight. So, but those are the ones I'd have to go to. But I mean, I fought a lot of great guys, so and I like another shot at a couple guys. But those days are.
What was the hardest thing? I'm just trying to wrap my brain around. I've never obviously been in the octagon like you, but just for someone, our viewers watching, and someone, the perspective of getting hit or a sleeper hold, if you will, the whole, I guess the way that you're able to, the technique of that and implement that on your opponent. What is the strategy behind that? And as far as getting hit and kicked and everything that goes along with that?
A couple of different questions. I mean, a strategy question that are too complex. It depends on who's fighting who.
When people are watching the sport and watching, someone like you or, inflict, whatever, it's a kick or the sleeper hold or that whole strategy of that and that technique, I was just trying to just kind of get inside of what it's like and how do you implement that? Because it's pretty profound when you watch it.
Getting used to being around strikes and being hit. I mean, it's part of. You have to accept it as part of the sport. I mean, the guys you see, the guys that are really too afraid to get hit,
mm-hmm.
They wind up, they're easier to hit because they're pulling out and doing this stuff. And if you get a guy that can capitalize on that real easy, it makes it hard if you're
right,
afraid to get hit. Now, there's all sorts of different ways to a lot of guys good head movement, good. Me, I was a meathead. I just thought for a long time would just hit me in the head with a brick and I keep coming. So just kind of ran at you that way, but not the smartest way to do it, but it is what it is.
Hey, that's what you do.
It was a fun ride though. I had a good time.
All right, so your last fight was 2 years ago, 2018, correct? And that was that was a rematch versus Tito Ortiz. And so basically you took an 8-year sabbatical, didn't fight for 8 years, and then all this fight came together where the war ends. And it was promoted by Oscar De La Hoya, the Golden Boy Promotions. And first of all, was there any I guess, hesitant for doing that fight? And I know seemed like there was a little animosity between Dana White and Oscar De La Hoya, because I guess he had said he really didn't want you to fight because you being out that long, and considering you're 48 years old at the time.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some between them. He wasn't happy with it. I mean, he wasn't, he didn't make any bones about that. And but it was what it was. I went out and did it for me, and it happened. It went the way it went, and it's okay. It's one of those things. If I can't beat him, I probably shouldn't be fighting.
Yeah, well, I thought it was amazing the fact that you could fight.
It actually let me know I had to get neck surgery. I didn't know I was having issues at all, and but I found out after that. About 6 months after that, I was having a problem with my neck being worn out. But
so the biggest thing in a sport now that you don't like.
I think sometimes the trash talking gets a little too much. The fake trash talking gets a little too much. But that's what people want, is a show. As long as it's still hot, great fighters fighting each other, and it comes down to the best guys fighting the best guys. I'm fine with that as a fan.
Conor McGregor.
And if other fans like that, if other fans like having well, that's great. The guys like Conor are great. I mean, they bring in people that don't watch fighting. I mean, there's all levels. The guys that bring in the casual fan, the guys that bring in, the guy that watches it once in a while, and the guys that bring in someone that doesn't watch it ever, but will watch it because he's on. It becomes an event, right?
Yeah, as I said earlier, Chuck, a lot of people, the reason why that you're, when you revolutionized a sport and made it more mainstream, a lot of people had to give a lot of thanks to you and what you've done to the sport, because a lot of people started watching and taking note when they saw you fight.
Thank you. I have a great life, and I owe that to the sport too. So, and all the fans out there. So, I'm still doing really good, and having a good life. So, no complaints.
So, is there anything that you regret, or if you had to do it all over again, is there anything that you'd want to do over again, or something that someone you'd like to fight? I mean,
no, I pretty much fought everybody. I mean, I wish, again, a couple more rounds with Vanderlei. I wish that fight had actually happened when it should have a couple years before that. But I wouldn't have missed the growing parts of this sport and traveling around, all the fun we had, and different stuff for anything. So, I mean, it was a great ride. I was able to cash out a little at the end. So, obviously, I'd love to have that kind of a run now with the money the way it is, but it is what it is. We got paid well. I mean, I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
It's I got to do what I love for a living. I got paid a lot of money to do it. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about it. I think that's well said, considering how you set it up. And as you said, now continue with your name and your brand and everything else you do. You're out in California. I know we're just dealing with this crazy COVID-19. I mean, how's that changed for you and your family? And I know in California it's been a little bit more strict. How's that changed your life and the way you're living?
Well, in the beginning, it was actually kind of nice. I took some time off. There's no appearances, no traveling. So, and the kids weren't at school. So we were out and about. They ride the bikes a lot better now. We had a lot of time to go riding bikes. And we actually, when they had a real lockdown here, for about 8 weeks during the summer, we went down to Huntington because it was more open down there. And we riding bikes every day. It was a great experience, it was actually good. But now I like to get back to work, get back to doing things. And I know people are hurting. People need to get back to work. A lot of small businesses having trouble. I like to let people make a living, man.
Yeah. All right. Every week we do a segment called X's and O's. All right, Chuck, Iceman. Every week we do a couple segments with our guests, and I'm just going to ask you some questions. It has nothing to do with how you became legendary. It's kind of legendary now in your own realm of things. First of all, your biggest pet peeve for Chuck Iceman Liddell.
Biggest pet peeve, leaving plates in the sink, like filling my sink so I can't clean my own dish and can't do my stuff. I hate putting it away like that. So, yeah.
So there's no dirty
dishes,
right?
I mean, other than that, I'm pretty easy.
I know your wife, Heidi Northcutt. She's a professional poker player, correct?
She was. She did. We actually were both in the World Series of Poker together. She played her way in, and I got sponsored in, obviously. But
my question is,
that was 2 years before I met her.
Yeah, I saw that. I read that. Who's the bigger bluffer?
Oh, she's way better than I am. Honestly, I don't have the patience for it. I do okay in the celebrity games because they're like a fast lines go up fast, and you can get a little lucky and win a couple of hands and do well. But yeah, no, she's a lot better than that.
One of the things I saw you do was pretty outlandish, considering I hate heights. Is you were on the ultimate expedition, and you climbed the Peruvian Andes, the mountains in Peru, 20,000 feet. I mean, how was that experience?
It was actually awesome. I had a great time with those guys. Now, the bad thing for me, the hard thing for me was I had just had neck surgery before I started doing the show. I did neck surgery in May, and we signed for the show, and we thought it was filming starting in October.
Oh shit!
But it was like the beginning of July. So I'm like, I was cleared to hike the week before I left to go to the show. So I haven't done anything. I wasn't supposed to do anything.
That's crazy, dude.
I haven't done anything for 2 months, cardio-wise, do anything. So I went, I'll just tough it out. But man, the base camp was at like 14,000 feet. You know, that altitude gets to you. I didn't get altitude sickness. I did okay. I had a good time on the show, but it was some work.
Wow, I also want to ask you. I know you have 2 daughters, three daughters and one son. Is that correct?
Yeah, I got 2 daughters at home and a son.
Okay. I guess, I have a daughter, and everyone always asks me and said, I feel sorry for the guy that dates your daughter. So what's it going to be like for kids or a boy or
my oldest is 19 now.
Date Chuck Liddell's daughter. What's that going to be like?
My oldest is 19 now, and actually, a funny thing was one of her first dance dates. Like I said, okay, you know what? I'll get a nice car and I'll drive guys to the. I'll be a chauffeur. So I chauffeured them to their dance and back. But for one of the things we took a picture and posted me in the guy's face, right?
That's great.
Like all mad looking, and it showed up on Fox News with the sports on the online. But it was funny.
Yeah, I just imagine that guy. I got some good news is bad news. Good news is you're going to date my daughter. The bad news, you got to deal with me. I think that's great. So exactly. Mad date, considering COVID-19 that you and your wife have been on.
Well, we went down to I think it was Nobu. We've been on a couple of date nights and a couple of things, nice things in nice restaurants, but nothing crazy. It's been kind of nuts. I
know you're a California guy, but beaches or mountains?
I grew up on the beach. I think I like the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Maybe not 20,000 in altitude, but other than that, not to climb, but to the actual.
I think one of these days I'm gonna have to go back and finish that.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm just trying to think of you, and I saw it on YouTube, and it's the altitude, man. That's one thing. When you get up to 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 feet in altitude and you can't breathe, dude, It's no joke.
You know, the funniest part about it, though, for me was like they're filming us and watching us walk up this thing and go up, you know, this hike up from 14,000 feet to like the high camp of like 16,800, right? But they don't show the porters running by us with 100-pound bags.
Yeah, those
exactly. Or walking by and taking like and coming back for a second trip. I'm like, are you? And you're wearing loafers? Like, what are you doing? Like, like, can I give him some real shoes? This is embarrassing. He's killing us. You know, it's like
all those guys.
They go twice. It's like they live up there and that's what they do, and they're getting paid per bag. So you know, more power to them, man. But it was like I always thought it was funny, like to make it look like we're working so hard and doing so good, and they're like, this guy just walks on, cruises on by with a 100-pound bag on his back.
Like that's nothing, man. I'm not feeling sorry for myself. All right, what was harder? Preparing for Dancing with the Stars or preparing for one of your fights?
Well, nerves-wise, I mean, Dancing with the Stars was rough, like for me. And I worked really hard at it, but, you know, it's one of those things. I didn't want to let her down. We're doing things. And also, like, you know, it didn't come all that natural to me. So, you know, it was tough. But it was fun. It was a fun experience, but I put in more hours than anybody that season, but
what you doing now? I know you work with a lot of different, you know, your martial arts and you train, you know, athletes but how can people follow you and some of the things that you're doing now? I mean, you're doing a lot of different things and, you know, life after fighting, but where can we find you and let us know what you're doing now?
Well, yeah, Chuck Liddell on Facebook, I got Instagram at Chuck Liddell, at Chuck Liddell, Twitter. Yeah. Let's see, and we also have a show coming out soon. It's called No Trucks Given.
Yeah,
and it's going to be on Caliber. So it's a new platform. So it's going to be, check it out.
So give us a little teaser. What's that going to be about?
Well, really, it's just you know, it's me doing different things that I like to do, like going in or different events, some charity events I go to, some of the things I do, just different events and kind of covering like we'll probably do. You know, it depends on with COVID what we're going to be able to go do and go see, but you know, I'd like to do some of the you know, preseason baseball, some football stuff, some fighting stuff, of course.
Hey, Chuck, I was going to ask you, you think come April 15th you could do my taxes? Because I know you have a degree. You're a CPA in accounting, right?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, no, you know what? I graduated in accounting. I don't think you want me doing your taxes, but
well, man,
yeah, hey, I never actually went out and worked.
Iceman, for joining me. I mean, it's been an honor. I'm very grateful, and happy holidays to you and your family. And again, thanks a lot, brother, for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me.
Anytime, man. Much thanks to the champ, Chuck Iceman Liddell, for that tremendous interview, man. It was awesome. Thanks again, brother, for being on our show. All right, that's going to put a wrap on the show this week. Again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, make sure you share our show, whether you're watching on Facebook Live or you subscribe to the Tony Casillas Show on YouTube. Share it because we want this to grow, as Kevin Ebling would say, organically, naturally.
You got it, man.
He's coming from the horse's mouth right there. So, again, thank you so much. Hope to see you next week. And as always, stay on.